He was a 6'9", 300-plus-pound giant and a legitimate two-sport superstar. He sold out arenas across the country and was one of the most believable and bankable stars of his generation. He had the size, the talent, and the charisma. So why was Ernie the Big Cat Ladd, the king without a crown? This is the story of why the powerful promoters of the NWA likely refused to give a man who earned it the World Heavyweight Championship. To get why Ernie Ladd's story is such an injustice, you first have to understand just how exceptional this guy was. Long before he ever stepped into a wrestling ring, Ladd was a certified world-class athlete. Born in Louisiana, he went to Grambling State University on a basketball scholarship, but his incredible size and power made him a natural for the gridiron. In the 1961 Pro Football Draft, he was a hot commodity. The NFL's Chicago Bears picked him in the 4th round, and the AFL's San Diego Chargers took him in the 15th. Ladd chose the Chargers and immediately became one of the most dominant defensive linemen in the sport. At 6 feet 9 inches and weighing around 300 pounds, he was a giant in an era of giants. He was a cornerstone of the Chargers' defensive line, sometimes called their own fearsome foursome, a nickname also famously used by the Los Angeles Rams. He was a 4-time AFL All-Star and helped lead the Chargers to an AFL championship in 1963. When an opponent, John Morris, was asked what it was like to face him, he said, "Ladd was so big, it was dark." This wasn't a wrestler just playing a part. This was a celebrated pro athlete at the peak of his powers. He started wrestling in the football offseason, and what began as a side gig quickly became a phenomenon. Ladd wasn't just a football player killing time, he was a natural, and a huge box office draw from early on. When knee issues began to slow his football career, wrestling wasn't a step down, it was a step up. Ladd himself said pro wrestling was simply more lucrative. So, in 1969, the Big Cat turned his full attention to the squared circle, and the sport was never the same. When Ernie Ladd entered wrestling full-time, he didn't just fit in, he took over. He was an immediate main event attraction, feuding with the biggest names in the business like Bruno Sammartino, Bobo Brazil, and another giant, Andre the Giant. Ladd's promos were legendary. He was arrogant, intelligent, and sharp-witted, often giving his opponents demeaning nicknames that got under the fans' skin. Wahoo McDaniel became the Drunken Indian, Mr. Wrestling was the Masked Midget, and he famously called Andre the Giant, Andre the Dummy. But what made Ladd truly revolutionary was his character. Before him, black wrestlers were almost exclusively portrayed as heroic baby faces, like the beloved Bobo Brazil. Promoters in the segregated territories often believed that white audiences would only accept black athletes in a smiling, non-threatening role. Ernie Ladd shattered that mold. He became one of the first and most important African-American heels, or villains, in wrestling history. He wasn't there to be a hero. He was there to be a dominant, intimidating, and often cheating force. He was there to make money, and he made it clear he felt he was better than everyone else. This persona made him one of the most hated men in wrestling, and in turn, one of its biggest draws. People paid their hard-earned money hoping to see someone finally shut the big man's mouth. His drawing power was undeniable, headlining cards from New York to the NWA territories and consistently selling out arenas. To protect his status as an unbeatable monster, Ladd perfected a tactic that became his signature. When a match wasn't going his way, he would simply leave. He'd walk out of the ring and take the count-out loss, which protected his aura by ensuring he was rarely pinned or forced to submit. This act became so associated with him that it was often called pulling an Ernie Ladd. While a brilliant move for his character, this very tactic would become one of the backstage justifications for keeping the sport's biggest prize just out of his reach. By the mid-1970s, Ernie Ladd had a resume that should have put him in line for a run with the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. He was a two-sport star, a massive box office draw, a master on the microphone, and a completely believable dominant force. So, why did it never happen? To find the answer, you have to look past the theatrics and into the political and racially charged world of the National Wrestling Alliance. In the 1970s, the NWA wasn't one company. It was a cartel of powerful regional promoters who all recognized one traveling world champion. That champion was basically a political appointment, decided by a vote. The board, led by influential figures like Sam Muchnick, was notoriously conservative. They wanted a champion who was reliable, who wouldn't cause problems, and who'd be accepted by audiences everywhere, especially in the still deeply segregated American South. This is where many believe Ladd hit his biggest roadblock: race. While Ladd had broken barriers as a top black heel, the idea of an arrogant, villainous black man as the NWA World Heavyweight Champion was likely a non-starter for the NWA's old guard. There's a strong argument to be made that promoters were afraid it would kill their business in the Southern Territories. The NWA title was the symbol of the entire organization, and in their minds, that symbol needed to be a safe choice. Men like Dory Funk Jr., Harley Race, and Jack Briscoe were the faces of the NWA in the 70s, all incredible wrestlers, but also all white athletes who fit the promoter's mold. From a pure business perspective, it's a glaring contradiction. Ladd was a box office king. As champion, he could have drawn huge money. But it's widely believed that the promoter's prejudice and fear of backlash outweighed their desire for maximum profit. It was an invisible, but seemingly unbreakable, glass ceiling. Beyond the racial attitudes of the era, other backstage factors likely conspired to keep the NWA's 10 pounds of gold off Ernie Ladd's shoulder. His own brilliant character work, ironically, may have worked against him. That famous walkout tactic made promoters nervous. To be the NWA champion, you had to be willing to lose the title on schedule, whenever and wherever the board decided. A champion with a reputation for walking out was seen as a major liability. What if he just refused to drop the belt? In the minds of the promoters, he might have been too difficult to control. Ladd was also fiercely independent. He was a free agent who moved between the WWF, various NWA territories, and Bill Watts's popular Mid-South promotion. He didn't belong to any one promoter. In the NWA's political world, a wrestler usually needed a powerful promoter in their corner, lobbying the board for a title run. Ladd was his own man, which earned him respect but left him without a key ally in the closed-door meetings where the champion's fate was decided. His history as a vocal participant in civil rights activism probably didn't help his case either. In 1965, Ladd was one of the key voices in a player boycott of the AFL All-Star Game in New Orleans to protest the racist treatment of black players. It was a courageous stand that cemented his legacy as a leader off the field. However, to the old-school promoters who wanted to keep politics out of the ring, this may have just reinforced their view of him as a potential troublemaker. He was a man who stood up for his principles, a quality they may not have wanted in a champion they needed to be compliant. He was a box office giant, a physical marvel, and a trailblazing pioneer. Yet, it's argued that the very things that made him great, his unbreakable will, his independent spirit, and the color of his skin, were the exact reasons the NWA's gatekeepers used to deny him the crown he seemed to have earned. If you're enjoying this look into wrestling history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a video. And let us know in the comments, who is another wrestler you think was unfairly denied a world title? Ernie Ladd's career is a paradox. He is a celebrated Hall of Famer, recognized by WWE, WCW, and the NWA itself. He held numerous regional championships, proving his worth as a top star everywhere he went. He even became a booker in the Mid-South Territory, one of the first black men to hold such a powerful backstage position in a major American promotion. His influence is undeniable. Yet, he's almost as defined by the one prize he never won as he is by all the accolades he achieved. For decades, the NWA World Heavyweight Championship was the pinnacle of the sport. By any measure of talent, drawing power, and impact, Ernie Ladd deserved a reign. The story suggests his crown wasn't stolen in the ring by a better wrestler. It was lost in a series of backroom meetings, to a system resistant to change, and to men whose fears may have blinded them to the monumental star they had. They saw a risk where they should have seen a revolution. But a legacy isn't only defined by championships. While he never wore the NWA's 10 pounds of gold, Ernie Ladd's true legacy is far more significant. He was a king who shattered molds, broke down barriers, and paved the way for future generations of black superstars to reach the heights he was unjustly denied. He proved that a black man could be the top villain, the top draw, and the smartest guy in the room. He may never have been the NWA's champion, but make no mistake, Ernie the Big Cat Ladd was one of the true kings of his era. And that is a crown no one could ever take away.